Well, greetings and welcome to our participants, those that are joining us on the live stream today. And thank you for joining us. And I think we have some exciting images and discussion for you as we launch our Alta VO1 track. And before we do, let me just introduce our staff here in the studio. And we have at the top we have Andrea, and she is our tech host, and she's handling all the questions you might have and keeping us all uh, properly connected with the technology. And then myself, and then we have Charlie. And Charlie is the guy
Hello.
for the Alta VO1 track, and I'll introduce him in more detail shortly. And then Jenna. And Jenna is in our office, and she's the Dolomites expert, but she'll be the one that you'll probably talk with as you make your travel plans and book this. Let me just kind of briefly explain about some of these new tours and the role that the guides have played in developing many of our new tours, which is wonderful because no one knows these destinations and knows the interests of our guests better than our guides. And so Charlie has been guiding the Dolomites for many years now, and I'm sure many of you know Charlie either from the Haute Route or the Tour de Mont Blanc or Alta Via One or so the Via Alpina, but now with the Alta Via One. And we guided this tour, what was it, last year, Charlie, with a private group and making this
Yeah.
available to a wider audience on the public basis. So it's great to have guides involved in the development. Charlie, as you probably know, just from his accent, he grew up in the UK, and he grew up traipsing the hills of Snowdonia and the Shropshire Hills, and climbing and hiking and trekking and camping, and then it was not until he left the UK and went to Switzerland that he had his first taste of alpine hiking, and he's been an avid alpine hiker ever since. He has a degree in mechanical engineering, and put that career aside for his love of the mountains and guiding. And he guides in the Dolomites and the French and Austrian Alps, and he's really an expert in alpine flora and wildflowers. In fact, I'll be hiking with Charlie, and he'll mention something, and I'll try to one up him with some comment about wildflowers, and he's always on top of it. So he's fun to hike with. And I think you'll love and being with Charlie as a guide. So let's talk about the Altavia one and first look at a map and just kind of see what the route includes. And we start in Venice, as we do with all of our Dolomites tours, and go straight from Venice to Cortina d'Ampezzo. And one thing you'll discover is you may not have heard or been to Cortina d'Ampezzo, but Cortina was an Olympic city back in 1956, and
56.
it's going to be an Olympic host city for the
Winter.
2026 Olympics, which are coming up very soon. But so now's a great time to kind of get there ahead of the rush. From Cortina, we go up and see the Trecime, but we do it from kind of a different angle, and then arrive in San Candido. We and then begin the Alta Via One as we head south. The Alta Via One really traverses the Dolomites on a north to south axis, and in doing so, it takes in, I think, the most iconic and dramatic aspects of the Dolomites. As we travel through the Dolomites, one thing that becomes very evident is the history that's included there. And because really the Dolomites were part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire up until World War One. And so that history is surprisingly close to the surface. And let's just look at the next slide, which shows us this is the Tre Cime, which is one of the iconic mountain features of the Dolomites. And it is typical of just the limestone towers that just jump out of the landscape in the Dolomites. So let's go on to the history, as I was talking about. It's all so close to the surface there in the Dolomites, and this is in Cinque Torre, and this is an old hospital that was there on the front line. As soon as World War One was declared, at the very start of the war, the Austro-Hungarian troops moved back and set their battle line, their boundary, their fortifications in the Dolomites along this line that runs through the Passo Rego, and so you'll be walking along a trail there and come on tunnels and fortifications that are still standing after 100 years after the battles. But it's amazing to see these. This was actually the Italian side of the front lines. So you have the history, but you also have an amazing culture, because in the Dolomites, the native language there is still German, and most of the family names of families that have lived there for hundreds of years are German names. And so and then to add another layer to the cultural tapestry, you have not only the German and the Italian, because it's all part of Italy, but then you have this Ladine language, which is a kind of a Roman-based language brought to the region by Roman soldiers 2,000 years ago, and then taken up by many of the local residents. Charlie, is that part of what makes the Dolomites so interesting and exciting for you? Is just this cultural complexity?
Absolutely, Greg. I've been guiding for Alpenwild since 2018 now, I think, all across the Alps, Switzerland, France, Italy. And every time I'm back in Italy, I'm reminded why the Dolomites are my favorite mountain range across the Alpine belt. The history, the culture, the food, and most importantly, the mountains themselves are just absolutely stunning. Like nothing else you'll see.
And then to the history and the culture, we've got the cuisine. And the cuisine in the Dolomites is this wonderful mix of Austrian pastries and Italian herbs and flavors. So the cuisine of the Dolomites is also a fun aspect. And next slide, we have just some of the iconic landscapes that reflect the Dolomites, but also the kind of the Austrian architecture. This is Tyrolean. In fact, the Dolomites are referred to by the locals as South Tyrol. So it's still regarded as Tyrolean, as Austrian, and yet in this Italian setting. Next, we have the cuisine, and this is actually a dessert. It's called Kaiserschmarrn. Now you'll have apple strudel and other Austrian delicacies, but Kaiserschmarrn is one of our favorites. And how would you describe it, Charlie? It's kind of a
it's like a caramelized pancake that's been shredded up. It's actually kind of got Austrian influences to it. It's from the late Franz Josef. He apparently went traveling across Austria and dropped into a farmer for some food, and the story goes that the farmer was so nervous preparing the pancakes that he couldn't keep his hands still, and the pancakes all shredded up. But so he served them to the king nevertheless, and he absolutely loved them. And so Kaiser is emperor, and Schmarren means mess. So the translation is emperor's mess, Kaiser Schmarren. That's a really good dish.
Right, it is. And we've shared a few bowls of Kaiser Schmarren various times throughout the
And
Dolomites.
classic Greg choosing a dessert to show for the cuisine page rather than a starter or main.
But the cheeses, the sausages, the dumplings, everything you have there is just wonderful, and probably dishes you never had before. So those are some of the things you had to look forward to. Well, let's talk about the difficulty and kind of the trails themselves. And even though this is a classic trek, and there's some long days and strenuous hiking, I would say that the elevation gain in the Dolomites is not as extreme as what you might have on the Tour de Mont Blanc or the Chamonix-Zermatt haute route. So if you've been on one of those tours, then you'll find that the Dolomites is a little more gentle, but still we consider this a strenuous trek. One of the differences is you have a lot of open spaces, a lot of just commanding views of landscapes that surround you. So it's beautiful landscapes, well-groomed trails, but they can be rocky and challenging at times. But I think for anyone that's hiked on the Via Alpina or the Chamonix-Zermatt haute route or through the Bernese Alps, you won't find anything extraordinary or surprising in the Dolomites in terms of the trail difficulty. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say for those that have done the Chamonix to Zermatt, the route between the huts, there's no part of the Alta Via 1 that compares as technically difficult as that section between Cabane de Louviers and Cabane de Perfleury. But I'd say the hiking is more sustained overall along the Alta Via 1, as the trails can be consistently quite rocky and rubbly. So they require a bit more focus and a bit more energy that goes with thinking about where to place your feet.
Okay, well, let's look at the next slide here, because this shows some of the, as I mentioned, these dramatic views that you'll be walking along a trail, and it's almost you almost become immune or just kind of used to these beautiful mountain views that are just standing out throughout the trek. And that's a particularly enjoyable part of the Alta Via 1 and any hike in the Dolomites. But I think along the way, we do a great job of capturing some of the most iconic and beautiful mountain scenery that's available in the Dolomites. And next slide, we'll see some of the meadows that you walk through. I think that's one difference in the Dolomites. You have these beautiful, lush, high alpine meadows, and then these limestone peaks rising above. It's so different than what you would find in other parts of the Alps, and that's why that's one thing that sets the Dolomites apart. Well, let's talk about the accommodations that we have in store. And we stay in some wonderful hotels in some of the villages. In fact, all of our hotels, as we stay in villages, are beautiful 4-star hotels. They have a lot of traditional touches, and I think you'll enjoy those days. We also stay in some mountain refugios. And those are unique to the Dolomites in that you have these wonderful um, um, you really can't compare them with huts in in um, in Switzerland or France, because they're more mountain hotels. Many of them have private rooms. They have wonderful cuisine, and this is one of Passo Stalanza. But we have other refugios that we stay at. And then as we conclude the Alta Via 1 and come down, we stay at a castle hotel on the final night. And I've stayed at many castle hotels before, but this one outdoes them all. This is Castelbrando in just south of the Dolomites, on our way as we return to Venice. It's actually in the Prosecco region, but this is an amazing place, huge hotel, and it's easy to get lost in this hotel. So that's a wonderful place to stay on the final night, and then we conclude the tour in Venice, and we, as we do, we go through the Prosecco region, and we have we have a wine tasting, and as we return to Venice, have a wine tasting and a visit to the Prosecco region, and then we conclude in Venice. Let's just go on to the next slide, and we have our time in Prosecco, and we'll have lunch there, and then wind up the afternoon of the last day in Venice. Venice is a great choice for concluding our tour, and that's because, first of all, there are lots of nonstop and direct flights from the U.S. to Venice. It's easy to get to Venice, but also Venice is a wonderful location for pre and post tour travel, and we find that most of our guests do some sort of pre or post tour travel, and if they're if they're in the Swiss Alps, they might spend a couple extra days in Zermatt or in the Jungfrau region. But here in the Dolomites, there's no better place to spend a few extra days before or after the tour than in Venice. And we can help you arrange that experience in Venice. And it's just a short hop from our final hotel to Venice, and we provide that transfer. So that this kind of wraps up, summarizes the tour. One thing I'll mention that for this tour, we have a special offer for those that are joining us today on the live stream, and that is we are offering a $150 off discount to those joining us today on the live stream for anyone who books in the next 36 hours. So make your booking by Saturday afternoon. Now, if you want to do that online and make your booking online, you can just type in Alta Via when it asks for a booking code. Type in Alta Via 1 for that $150 off per person discount. And if you're talking, you can talk with one of our staff in the office and get any questions asked, answer that you want to, and they'll be happy to arrange that reservation for you by phone. So with that, if there are any questions, love to see those on the screen. You can type them in, or you can share any questions you have with our staff, and they'll be happy to answer those. Looks like we've lost Charlie on the screen. I don't see him. There he is. Okay, I didn't know if we'd lost you, Charlie. Anyway, Charlie, anything you'd like to say in wrapping this up?
Why isn't my sound working? What's going on?
There we go. Charlie,
I can't hear Greg.
One quick final question for you. We've scheduled this tour for July and September, and one reason is that August is so busy. The Dolomites is where all of the Italians go in August, and so it's very, very busy in August. I think July and September offer a much quieter, more peaceful experience in the Dolomites than you might have during August. Any thoughts about that, Charlie? Are you with us? Or okay, looks like Charlie's still tuning in, some tech issues, but I think you'll enjoy the time. And I'll also mention that, by the way, our September departure for 2024 is already sold out. So so we suggest you look at the July departure, which is a wonderful time to be there for wildflowers, for just verdant, lush meadows and flowing water and streams. So July is a great time to be in the Dolomites. So with that, we'll conclude. Want to thank Charlie for being here, and also thank Andrea and Jenna for hosting us here today, and look forward to seeing you in the Dolomites. Until then, thank you much and goodbye.